All right.
Hello, Wednesday night. Welcome to Fantasy Football Week 8. We will be going over the rankings here, like we do every week. We'll go top 5. Luke will be here. Well, Luke Reimer's here. Trevor Lawrence not here, by the way. We should do that up front.
Good riddance.
Trevor got one fan. Yeah, Trevor got one fan last night and went to his head. He's holding out for more money. I don't know. But yeah, we will be comparing these rankings to the rest of the consensus. And we will see if we're higher, lower, or what our thoughts are compared to the rest of the industry and a bunch of these players. And we might as well start with quarterbacks right away. Trying to think if there's any notable quarterback news. I guess Zach Wilson's out. Yeah, Flacco was traded for, but apparently they're committing to Mike White, and they're not playing Flacco.
I think that was just more of a scheme for the Eagles to get Gardner Minshew into the lineup.
Probably. I mean, it made a lot of sense for the Eagles. I don't know what the Jets were doing, but good for them. They could have re-signed him, but they spent a 5th-round draft pick to bring him back and not play him. So even better. Okay, so quarterbacks this week, Fantasy Football Week 8. Josh Allen I have at number 1 versus Miami. Coming off a bye, coming off a loss. I think Josh Allen's going to tear it up. I do have Patrick Mahomes at 2 versus the Giants. Jalen Hurts at the Lions at 3, Kyler Murray versus the Packers tomorrow, and then Matthew Stafford at 5 at the Texans. What do you think of those 5?
Love Josh Allen at 1. If you didn't have him at 1, I was going to make the case for him to be a 1. Buffalo shut out Miami the one time they played him this year. I don't see, obviously it's tough to shut out a team, but I don't see that straying away much. Buffalo coming off a bye, they're all rested up, divisional matchup. This is just another reason to show Buffalo, show the NFL that Buffalo is still the number 1 team in the NFL. And I think a lot of that gets on the back of Josh Allen, passing, running, kind of the do-it-all guy for Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes really interesting at number 2, right? Because he looked horrible last week. 3 turnovers, I think. The Chiefs only scored 3 points against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. And I think that defensive coordinators have kind of figured out Patrick Mahomes a little bit here. They don't blitz him, which is weird to say for a quarterback.
Right.
Keeping a quarterback in the pocket and just putting zone out there and make the quarterback make the decisions. And that hasn't seemed to work right now. That hasn't seemed to, be in the favor of Patrick Mahomes. But the Giants are without Jabril Peppers for the rest of the year, like probably top 3 player on their defense. So that does seem like it's going to spell a lot of trouble for that defense. So yeah, I do like Patrick Mahomes too. I think they take a couple of shots over the top to where Jabril Peppers usually is. I can see Tyree Kill having a big week off of this as well.
Yeah, and we'll get to him in a little bit, but I do like him a lot, in relation to Mahomes as well. But yeah, I mean, we've seen this across the NFL now. I don't know why this is a new thought, but it's people investing in their front 4. If you can get pressure with 4 guys, then you can sit back in zone. We saw that what the Saints did to the Packers in week 1, destroyed the Packers doing the same exact thing. They got pressure with 3. We saw the Titans do it last week. That's the only thing about this Giants team. Like, I think their pass rush is okay. I really like Azeez Ojulari, I believe his name, the rookie.
Out of Georgia.
He's really solid. Yeah, he's really good. So if he turns into a game wrecker, it's just the same exact thing. Obviously, I think the Giants defense as a whole, because of those injuries, obviously Blake Martinez out too, and I think they're as a whole worse, but I don't think it's a given that Mahomes is going to dice them up. I believe he will, obviously, and it's on Monday Night Football, so it just feels like stars are aligning for a Chiefs get-right game.
Mm-hmm. This is a perfect week for the Chiefs get-right game too. Right before kind of the final stretch, they got the Packers next week. I mean, they kind of dive into a little bit of a tough schedule, and good to get on track here with the lowly Giants.
Yeah, to your point. I mean, Packers, then Raiders, who it's definitely not a gimme, obviously, and then Dallas, and then they go into their bye. I'm still a firm believer that the Chiefs are probably going to win this division, but it's not a given. We'll see who they have, I guess, against the Packers next week, because they will be trading for somebody.
Yep.
I can guarantee it. Going down the rankings, Who's a surprise? I have Trevor Lawrence at 15 at Seattle. I thought Seattle looked pretty bad. I just thought Jameis Winston looked worse, to be completely honest. So I like Trevor Lawrence there off his bye.
Just
Um,
to speak on Trevor Lawrence here for a second, I picked him up in a lot of my leagues because Lamar Jackson's on by. The Seattle
mhm,
defense doesn't scare me a lot. The only thing that scares me about this game is it's in Seattle and having the rookie quarterback go up against the fans, the crowd. Manning's. I don't know if you watched the Manning cast last on Monday or not, but they're kind of talking with
mhm.
Tom Brady breaking down the silent count and how tapping the butt of the center or whatever. I think that's something to watch for. I do think that like I said before, Seattle's doesn't worry me at all. Their offense doesn't worry me at all. So I think this is a game where Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence can kind of get into a groove a little bit right away and get Dan Arnold, Laviska Shenault, Marvin, get everyone involved in this offense.
They should. Like, they got sneakily, I guess, quietly, whatever. They still have weapons, even with DJ
Mhm.
Chark out. Not to mention Dan Arnold. Trevor's not even here to talk him up. I think he's pretty good. Like, they have weapons there. I think the offense isn't the issue for Jacksonville.
Yeah, for sure.
Only other notable one I think is I put Sam Darnold at 19. I'll compare it to the industry in a second. I would guess that's lower. He plays Atlanta. Atlanta isn't scary. I just don't believe in Sam Darnold.
Not
I don't
after
think
last
he's
week.
good. No, no. I understand he panics under pressure, but I don't know. I just think his confidence is already dented or whatever after getting benched. He's just one of those players I don't think can get out of his own head,
Yeah, I think
personally.
he's still a little bit in his head about the whole Jets situation too, about seeing ghosts and kind of just getting destroyed by the media in New York.
Yeah, and it's starting again. I mean,
Hmm.
immediately it's like, oh, maybe Deshaun Watson will go to Carolina.
Right.
Like, maybe you are so bad you're going to get replaced by a sexual predator. That's how bad you are.
Are
Like,
so just to touch on Deshaun Watson real quick, trade deadline's coming up in what, 5 days, if that. I don't even know what the
yeah.
date is today. I've been at home with COVID, so I haven't really been taking note of days. But is Deshaun Watson's not someone that you want to pick up because he still has to serve a 6 game suspension, doesn't he? Or is that
I
counted
don't
as
think
sir? Or is that
I
not a
don't think he
thing?
was ever suspended.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think he was suspended. What like everyone's saying he should be on the commissioner's exempt list, but they're waiting. It wouldn't surprise me if all of a sudden they trade and they're like, oh, okay, now we're going to start him, and then they put him on the commissioner's exempt list and he can't play.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of risk involved. I don't know. I don't know how there's a trade for him.
Yeah.
There's way too many things.
Yeah. And it's going to be tough to, give up vital pieces to your team because obviously Deshaun Watson's a good football player. It's going to be, if you're
Mhm.
like Washington, who I know they're far back in their division, but they still have they may, put a couple wins together, they can make the playoffs here. Miami, I think Miami's still a solid team. I think that defense is still solid. I mean, these teams are going to have to give up vital pieces to get Deshaun Watson, and it doesn't make sense to do it now. Rather do it in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume any team trying to trade for him wants like a work in there. Like if he does get in trouble, then we get all our picks back and stuff like
Hmm.
that, which the Texans won't play ball with. So there's just too much risk. It's a PR nightmare.
Yeah,
Like
100%.
the Texans are willing to tank their season just not to take that PR hit, and you want to be the franchise, be like, we're actually fine with it. Like we're
Yeah.
cool with it. Yeah. Comparing these rankings with the consensus, I have Geno Smith at 20, and I guess that's 4 spots higher. Geno Smith plays the Jaguars this week, so an easy matchup there. I have Jared Goff at 21. That's 5 spots higher than the consensus. He plays the Eagles at home. And the only other player popping up here is Tua Tagovailoa. I have him at 25, and that's 4 spots lower. He plays Buffalo, and I just don't trust him against Buffalo with a week of preparation.
Yeah.
Do you
Like I said
have
before,
anything with those three?
yeah, for just with Tua, like they're going to be playing from behind. I don't trust Tua enough to not make good decisions while playing from behind. I still don't think he can throw the right side of the field. So just take away half of the field and you kind of just overload on the right. Buffalo's got a good pass rush too. Yeah, I think I'm staying away from Tua. I know Lamar Jackson and Derek Carr are on buys, so people are probably going to be looking at Tua. I think you can find other places. One name that came to mind is Taylor Heinecke. Um, To me, he's almost matchup proof because he's so unpredictable. He ran for 95 yards against the Packers last week, which is,
Yeah.
added 5 more yards. That's 10 points just without him throwing the ball once. Plus, Terry
Mhm.
McLaurin's a stud at receiver. I do like what Taylor Heinecke does. Obviously, he's not the guy, but just because of his unpredictableness, I think he's going to allot you 12 to 15 points at the least.
Yeah, he creates plays. Like if nothing's there, he's going to create an angle to flip a pass. He's Brett Favre like in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like you said, 95 yards rushing. You can't really prepare for that. And it wasn't very few were called runs. It was just broken plays. And
Yeah.
yeah. And Denver, I don't know. Denver is a good defense, but they're definitely not playing like it. And I don't think Von Miller's playing yet. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good call. I know prior to waivers, I think Kirk Cousins was unowned in like 60% of leagues or so.
Saw that, yeah.
Definitely check. Yeah, check if he's out there because he had a bye last week, so maybe someone dropped him. I have him at 9 against the Cowboys. I'm not scared of the Cowboys at all. I think that's a great matchup.
Cousins is quietly having a good year too, which is pretty easy to do when you have Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, Madison, Thielen. He's got studs around him. But say what you want about Kirk Cousins, the fantasy impact is there just by his supporting cast. He's having the Kirk Cousins year. Just don't turn the ball over and don't lose him the game. And I think he's playing exemplary at that right now.
Yeah, top 6 guy, 3 different weeks. This game screams shootout with the Cowboys, and
Mm-hmm.
I would love it. He's at home in a dome. That's where he plays best. Any other quarterback you want to talk about?
I wanted to bring up Daniel Jones and just to talk through your thoughts on this. Kansas City obviously has their defense has been their downfall, right? Their defense is just
Mm-hmm.
terrible. People have just been passing all over them. The over/under at this game right now is 52, and I think that this might be one of the easiest bets of the year, just in part because I talked about Jabril Peppers being out. But Daniel Jones is kind of like
Mm-hmm.
that Taylor Heinecke, where he can kind of just make plays. He's unpredictable, he fumbles a lot, whatever. But I do like Daniel Jones here. He's playing from behind Monday Night Football. This seems like a game where Daniel Jones could outplay that 13 ranking. I think he might even finish top 10 this week.
And that's totally fair. I don't know who I want to move him ahead of. To be honest, and it seems weird, I think I want to move him ahead of Joe Burrow, or at
Yeah.
least move Burrow below him. But yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. We could see this become a shootout. 2 bad defenses, 2 good offenses, and I like Daniel Jones as a player. We'll see who is there to catch passes, I guess.
I was
I
going to
know
say,
Slayton's healthy. Tony is banged up, but he's playing. Evan Ingram apparently is getting trade calls for, so he may be traded away. Kenny Golladay, I don't know his status. Sterling Shepard, I don't know his status.
and Saquon, questionable.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
So just based off that alone, Daniel Jones might have to do, everything in this game.
Sure. And we saw him do great at that. Let's see what his ranking was against the Saints. He was quarterback 6 against the Saints. Obviously, that's a good defense. He had no weapons that game. He passed for 402 yards. So, I mean, he's really good.
This is a spot that I would say too that Daniel Jones is probably worth a look in DFS. Tough to do with the Monday night slate, but I mean, if you're playing Monday night only, then probably not. But if you're doing a week long, then Daniel Jones might be your guy for quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's very fair. Moving on to running backs, it's going to be controversial on top, but I have number 1, Dalvin Cook versus the Cowboys. Number 2, I have Jonathan Taylor versus the Titans. I have Derrick Henry at 3 at the Colts, and then Austin Eckler 4 versus the Patriots. Aaron Jones 5 tomorrow at the Cardinals. What do you think of those 5? What do you think of Derrick Henry at 3?
So I was going to say that's obviously the big point here is Derrick Henry at 3. I don't see obviously he's going to be I shouldn't say going to be, but you have to rank him top 5 for sure. I agree with you this week. I don't see him as one. I think Indianapolis has sneaky good set of linebackers who play the run well. Darius Leonard's fast as hell. He can make plays all over the field. He seems like the kind of guy who can not stop Derrick Henry, but can hold him up while the rest of the defense gets there to finish the tackle. which is, believe it or not, tough for a lot of teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, they just use him so much. We did see them, or I saw them use Nyheim Hines Sunday night last week. He had that wheel route that they've like come to patent with Nyheim Hines, but due to the weather, it dropped. I don't think obviously the weather played a huge factor in that game. So what do you do when it rains? You run the ball. I think Indianapolis is running the ball either way. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's usage just screams top 5 to me. Austin Eckler I like a lot too, because Belichick's known for one thing. What's the best you take away? And I think you have to take away Justin Herbert's number 1 receiver, who seems to have been Mike Williams this year, right? You can't let him play deep. You can't let him get those long throws, which screams underneath routes, handoff screens off Austin Eckler for me.
Agreed. And I believe JC Jackson, I think he might be out for the year, or at least out this week, number 1 corner for New England. So again, that just means they're going to commit more to that back end, make sure they don't beat them with that Mike Williams, with Keenan Allen, with whoever. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there.
I was going to say too, sorry. Aaron Jones, I think there's no doubt that he's the beneficiary of all these receivers being out for the Packers. I'm sure we'll dive more into that in Lombardi sweep coming up next. But this has to be, Aaron Jones. I would love to see him get 30 touches, honestly, tomorrow. He has to run the ball well. He needs to receive the ball well if the Packers want to, move on to 7 wins in a row.
And again, yeah, like you said, right after this show, we'll do Lombardi sweep. But Cardinals again given up the second most rushing yards per carry at 5, and it's like 4.79 or so just to running backs alone. J.J. Watt's out, so one of their best run defenders is out. I think it's going to be a massive Aaron Jones game. Derrick Henry, I just looked up how he has done against the Colts recently, and he's been good. His numbers look better just because he's had 28 and 27 carries the past 2 games against them. But Colts traded for DeForest Buckner to stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Like, along with, obviously, Darius Leonard's a stud. DeForest Buckner is, for my money, he's the best defensive tackle in the NFL. I think, obviously, there's a lot of things Aaron Donald can do really well, especially run stopping. There's nobody better than DeForest Buckner. And there's been a lot of games where Derrick Henry hasn't looked great this year.
Yeah.
People forget. And those are usually games where he's not on like prime time. And people don't see it. This is a noon game. I expect him to get stopped relatively.
The thing, I mean, there's a lot to like about Derrick Henry, but the thing that you have to love about it is that they were up 27-3. They beat the Chiefs 27-3, and Henry still had 30 rushes.
Yeah, that workload will be there. Other running backs here. I moved Mark Ingram down right before coming on. I moved him down to 53. He just got traded to the Saints. And in turn, I moved David Johnson up to 35. I could see him go up a little bit more. And then I moved Philip Lindsay to 47. They play the Rams. I would look to see if either out there, like on the waiver wire, I'd be okay with picking up either. I'm not overly excited. I don't want to start either person.
Right. Yeah, I just picked up Mark Ingram in a couple of leagues. Just the experience of what he actually, he made a Pro Bowl in New Orleans. He's kind of been known as that vulture back. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on this going forward. Not necessarily this week rankings, but going forward, would you rather have Mark Ingram or David Johnson?
David Johnson. I mean, I'm biased too because I really like David Johnson. I think he's really good still. But even so, I mean, the opportunity is going to be there. And then if Tyrod comes back next week, that offense looked good under Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, it did. Beat the Jags.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. But after this game, they go Miami, which is a beatable defense now. Then they have a bye. Then they go Tennessee. They go the Jets. And the Colts is kind of tough. But then Seahawks, Jaguars, Chargers, who have a bad run defense. So the matchups aren't too bad for David Johnson. Who else? Oh, Philadelphia. Let's talk about those guys.
Oh, boy.
I have Kenneth Gainwell at 24. Again, they play the Lions. Miles Sanders. I'm assuming Miles Sanders is out completely.
That's what I read. Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, so I can't imagine he would play after getting carted off. I mean,
The thing is, too, when he plays, they don't use him.
true. But I have Kenneth Gainwell at 24. I was talking about it a little bit last night. There's a lot of people assuming Kenneth Gainwell gets vaulted up and sees a larger role. And I think he's going to keep essentially the exact same role. I think it's either going to be Boston Scott jumping him, or it's going to be, and no one's talking about him, I don't think, it's Jordan Howard. I think Jordan Howard's going to get that early down role, which is what he's built for, much more than Boston Scott. So I definitely want to go to pick up Jordan Howard because it's probably a 1 week thing. I wouldn't go to pick up Boston Scott either, but I have Boston Scott at 31. And then I ranked Jordan Howard, which is more than what most people did. He's last in my rankings, but he's on there.
Yeah, I think in general, the Detroit matchup is inviting. But just like you said, there's too much confusion there to really, pin one guy down. Kenneth Gainwell has, got a couple of red zone touches. He's scored a couple of red zone touchdowns this year. So if I had to pick a guy, I would want him. Eagles offense doesn't excite me at all. It seems like the game just end up, they're down by 17 and Jalen Hurts comes back by himself.
Yeah.
This probably not the case in this game with the matchup against Detroit. Honestly, I don't see a lot of points being scored in this game.
No.
So this game just kind of seems like a grinded out, not kind of 4 yards every carry kind of thing. Keep subbing guys in and out. So I think you stay away from Philadelphia. But if anyone ever wanted to read into the lifespan of a average running back, look at Jordan Howard. 3 years ago he was a 1,000-yard rusher, and now he's like basically fifth string running back for the Eagles.
I want to see how old he is because in my mind he's only like 26 still. He's pretty young. 26. There we go. Turns 27 next week. So I was right for got that small window to be right there. Compared to the consensus, I have Boston Scott. Again, this is half PPR rankings. I have Boston Scott at 31. That's 7 spots higher than the consensus. So like I said, a lot of people are really banking on Kenneth Gainwell there. I have David Johnson at 35. That's 7 spots higher. Rashad Penny for the Seahawks, I'm at 42. That's 4 higher. Brandon Bolden for the Patriots, I like quite a bit. I have him at 43. That's 6 higher. 8 higher on Philip Lindsay. 8 higher on Jeremy McNichols. He's the pass catching back behind Derrick Henry. And then, like I said, Jordan Howard at 58. I just put him on there. That's 13 higher. In terms of lower, Chavante Williams at 29 is 4 lower. 4 lower on Tony Pollard. I'm 4 lower on Mike Davis. So I want to know your thoughts on Mike Davis. I have him at running back 40. Consensus has him at 36. He plays Carolina. Not that easy of a matchup. We saw last week he took 4 carries for 10 yards, and that was it. Do you think there's a bigger workload this week? Even with the bigger workload, what do you think about him?
I honestly don't. Obviously, the pickup of the year so far has been Cordero Patterson, right? And that's with Mike Davis being healthy. And, he hasn't had an injury designation when Cordero Patterson had those 3 touchdowns, came back and had 2 touchdowns or whatever he did. It seems to me that Atlanta knows that Mike Davis was kind of a thing last year and they missed on him this year. They signed him. This was supposed to be their big guy. He's supposed to be their next Michael Turner. They kind of brought Steven Jackson at the end of his career for that. It didn't really work either. This is seeming like the same thing to me. I think they're trying to phase him out of this offense. I'm still not excited about Atlanta's offense. I know Kyle Pitts has been, the focus. He's kind of taken over that number 1 role with Calvin Ridley dealing with, these personal issues or whatever's going on. I don't see Atlanta running the ball much. They never really have with Matt Ryan, and I don't think that changes against this tough defense with Carolina. I think you have to start Cordero Patterson due to just his role, but I think Mike Davis is better off on the bench. I think you try to trade him now and try to talk him up as their number 1 running back, because I don't think you're going to be able to get anything for him within the coming weeks here.
His schedule is also brutal. That Steven Jackson comparison is good, by the way. I didn't think about that. But he has Carolina this week, at the Saints next week. That's a really tough run defense. By the way, his bye is already done. Then he goes Patriots, Jacksonville's relatively easy. Then he goes Tampa Bay, Panthers again, 49ers. So it's like he just because that schedule in general, he's droppable for me because I'm never going to feel good about. I would never feel good about starting him. I definitely would try to trade him before dropping him. He's not a must drop, but man, yeah, I don't like him at all.
You don't even feel great about it when, Derrick Henry or someone has a bye and you just need a spot to fill. I think you'd rather test your luck with Boston Scott or somebody like that.
Completely agree. Looking at the chat here, Jair's from Twitch. With Adams and Lazard out, how are we feeling about Cobb as a flyer tomorrow? Everyone likes Randall Cobb. And I think he gets more snaps, and I think he is okay. I know a lot of the people who are thinking they know something and are sneaky are going to Equinemius St. Brown. I don't know about you, Luke, and we'll talk about this more later. I think it's a Malik Taylor game. What about you?
It should be a Malik Taylor game. I was going to bring him up on Lombardi's sweep, but I'll probably make the same point on Lombardi's sweep. Without Devontae Adams last year, 6 touchdowns went to tight ends and running backs for the Packers. I see this more as a Rob Tonyan or maybe even Mercedes Lewis rather than Randall Cobb.
That's a good call. We could even see Aaron Jones get split out a little bit more.
Yeah. I could see Kylan Hill being involved in this game a lot too, but
that's true. That's very true. That's a good call. That's how it definitely should go. We'll see what happens. That's definitely how it should go.
Yeah. So I would say that I'm not confident about Randall Cobb as someone who's going to make up those points for Adams and Lazard.
I agree. And obviously there's a connection there. So if, it's a desperation game, Rodgers has to pull something out of his hat. I almost said that really Midwestern man. He's going to be his guy. He's going to be a security blanket and stuff like that. He should definitely see more snaps. That's kind of been the trouble of the last few weeks. He hasn't seen the snaps, which is weird. But yeah, I would fully avoid wide receivers if I can. Obviously, Marquez Valdes-Scantling could also be activated. He technically could be there. But yeah, I'm with you with the running backs for sure.
Yeah, and this seems like a game that Amari Rodgers might get some more snaps to get him out on the field and get some experience. But you got to imagine that Arizona Cliff Kingsbury's got to stop Randall Cobb because that seems like it should be the number one option for Aaron Rodgers tomorrow.
I agree. So another question in the chat. If his team is already good, so I'm assuming he's trading some bench guys here, would getting DeAndre Swift and Jamar Chase be good if he's giving away Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Chavante, Hunt, AB, and Michael Thomas? So giving up a ton of guys for 2 bona fide studs.
That's a lot to give up. I'm still on the boat that Kareem Hunt's the running back you want in Cleveland, even when he comes back, because he's the touchdown guy. He's the receiving guy. It seems Nick Chubb, he's going to get his 100 yards, but is he going to score the touchdown? That's always the question. And Kareem Hunt's going to get his 50 yards, and it seems like he's going to score the touchdown. I want to keep Kareem Hunt, and I want to keep Antonio Brown, because we had talked about on the show before that Antonio Brown's kind of taken over that Chris Godwin spot. If your team is already good, I totally understand getting Swift and Chase and just dominating the rest of the way and not even thinking about it. So, I mean, it's tough to, judge how good your team is without you telling us your team. But if you're confident on it, go ahead, because Swift and Chase are studs.
Yeah, my only hesitancy is that DeAndre Swift has been banged up the entire season. And, once it gets to weeks 10, 11, 12, if he's the same level of banged up, why would he play? Because, we'll be looking at 0-11, 0-12 probably at that point. Maybe if they get a win this week, they'll have 1. So you're kind of banking on DeAndre Swift, who's already banged up, and Jamar Chase, who is tiny, and his quarterback is injury prone and not healthy as well. So that's my worry. But again, looking at the guys you have, there's tons of injuries there too. So it depends on who you can pick up. If you can pick up some decent guys along the way with, all those vacancies. He says he has Eckler, Kamara, Hill, Jefferson, Lamb, Henderson. So he has a ton of good players. I don't hate it.
I don't either. With him saying that team, Are you going to get, if you do make this trade, are you going to get pissed at yourself when you don't start DeAndre Swift and he goes for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns because you can't start him? Or, and I think another piece of this trade is that when is Javonte Williams going to take over that number one running back spot? Does it happen this year? It doesn't seem like it's, pointed in that direction. So.
No. As long as Melvin Gordon's healthy, Melvin Gordon is the lead back in my personal opinion. But yeah, a lot of guys eating to each other there. I don't mind the trade if it makes you feel a little bit better. Yeah, you could start them all. I mean, there's going to be plenty of weeks where Henderson's better than Swift. Swift is, I don't know. I don't fully buy Swift right now.
Yeah, and I've said it once. I mean, we both said it before that Jamal Williams is good enough to be a starting running back in the NFL. Swift, I think if Dan Campbell has to sit Swift, he's not too concerned about that.
Right. I would say only. So again, I would only say yes if you can pick up some decent players. I believe you'd said last night you have an 8-team leagues, and looking at your team, I would assume there's good players available. So for that reason, I'd be more willing, just because you're not going to be scared if somebody goes down. Also trade up for.
If you're gonna get Henry, yes.
Yeah. If you could do that, definitely go for it then. Okay, back to the rankings here for a little bit. Any other running back you want to talk about?
Of course, I both. Kind of interesting, this Arizona backfield dynamic.
Yeah.
James Conner he seems like the guy that you want, but Chase Edmonds is not, putting up bad numbers at all. I think he's filling a perfect flex role. He's getting 10 points a week. So I think if you have them both, I think you still want to play James Conner because he's the guy who's scoring the touchdowns. But I don't know. This is a really confusing backfield for me because I have Chase Edmonds in one league and he's supposed to be the lead guy, and I always thought that James Conner sucks, but I don't know if he's a product of this offense. But James Conner is kind of having a career revitalization here.
Yeah, I mean, we see James Conner's a short yardage guy, should get the touchdowns like you said. We've seen the Packers struggle to cover running backs out of the backfield as receivers. That's why I have Edmonds one spot ahead of him. But I'd be willing to start both of them, like one as an RB2 and one as a flex. I'm not scared of the Packers defense.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that too. Just like you said, the running backs and Packers suck in red zone defense, so that's where James Conner makes his money.
Yeah. Seeing how people are ranking defenses and kickers and stuff like that, one good game from the Packers last week, everyone's all in on their red zone defense, and they forget who was playing offense. Honestly, it was Washington.
Yeah, the two stops came to Taylor Heinecke not rushing for one more yard and then not catching a snap on a QB sneak.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. I mean, we watched the game. Not everybody did, so remember that, I guess. Going to wide receivers, I have Cooper Kupp versus the Texans at 1, Tyree Kill 2 versus the Giants, Stephon Diggs versus the Dolphins at 3, Jamar Chase 4 at the Jets, and Justin Jefferson 5 versus the Cowboys. What do you think?
I was talking to my dad about this. He's a big fantasy football guy too, and we were saying Cooper Kupp every single week. You want to say, how can Cooper? There's no way he can do it again. Yeah. And Cooper Kupp keeps doing it again and again. He's obviously come out as Matthew Stafford's favorite receiver, and that's a good spot to be. I mean, Calvin Johnson's a great receiver and everything, but a lot of it came because Matthew Stafford was bombing the ball to him in triple coverage like every single play. So I think if you're the number one guy in a Matt Stafford-led offense, you're in a pretty good spot for your career trying to get your next contract. So yeah, Cooper Kupp, I think you have to rank him at least top 3 every single week until he either gets hurt or he goes like maybe even 3 games without, finishing top 25 or something like that. I gave my thoughts on Tyree Kill. I think they take a couple shots deep to him. Jamar Chase, I like a lot, I think, against this Jets defense. The run game for Cincinnati has always been kind of a question mark for me, but the pass game's kind of never been that question mark. Joe Mixon's a stud running back. teams have to watch him, and I think that's why Jamar Chase benefits so much. He also has that connection with Joe Burrow. This is another case, kind of like Cooper Kupp, where that connection is just going to keep carrying them through the season, especially against this Jets defense, who doesn't really scare you that much.
I agree. Jets are quietly okay against wide receivers, but some of it's a product of being behind by so much, obviously. And Cooper Kupp, I mean, he's definitely Stafford's favorite guy, but I think more than anything, he's Sean McVay's favorite guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean McVay loves him so much. He calls plays for him. He's had all these plays drawn up, and he couldn't call them because he had Jared Goff at quarterback. So now he has all this. He can call any play because Stafford can make any throw on the field. So this offense clearly is running through Cooper Kupp right now. And against the Texans, especially after how how the Rams looked last week against the Lions. This is a game where they need to put up a bunch of points and step on the throat of the Texans. And I think they do that with Kupp.
Yeah, and I definitely think that this is a game, one of a couple this year that one team can hit the over by themselves. I think the Rams just absolutely come out and destroy the Texans here, just because, you can't follow up a kind of a fluke game to the Lions to a bad game to the Texans.
Yeah, that would make a lot of people doubt them quite a bit. They're given like the easiest schedule in the league outside of their division. And they need that. Reports today out of Tampa, Antonio Brown showed up with a crutch, so I would assume he is not playing. I don't know what happened. I don't think there's any reports of what happened yet because he was on the COVID list last week. And I don't think that requires any crutches, but he has one. So I have Godwin at 13 versus the Saints, and I have Evans at 17 versus the Saints. Traditionally, I don't have the numbers ahead of me, but traditionally Marshawn Lattimore has been pretty tough against Mike Evans, so I could see myself moving him down a little bit, but at the same time, he's going to be force-fed the ball too.
Yeah.
What do you think about that receiving core, though?
And I was going to bring up that same thing about Lattimore on Mike Evans. Too bad we don't have Trevor right now to talk about Mike Evans, but Mike Evans can easily be taken out of games, and we've seen that in his career. And usually it's been done by Marshawn Lattimore. Honestly, Marshawn Lattimore kind of took DK Metcalf out of that game Monday night. You have Gino Smith at quarterback, but it seemed like Gino Smith wasn't even looking DK Metcalf's way. That was just, I don't know what you thought, but that was just kind of a weird game. Two bad quarterbacks, brain, whatever. But I think Chris Godwin is the guy you need to start right now if Antonio Brown doesn't play. Chris Godwin, if he gets that spot back, he led the league in receiving at that, that slot to the outside receiver kind of spot. And that was with Jameis Winston at quarterback. You got Tom Brady at quarterback who's going to always put the ball on you, likes the middle of the field. I like Chris Godwin the best out of these. I like him best out of the tight ends included and the running backs, and I think Chris Godwin's the guy to play out of the Buccaneers this week.
Mike Evans' past 2 games in New Orleans, he has a combined 1 catch for 2 yards and a touchdown. I would call that a slightly fluky touchdown. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that is his stats. He has 96 and 93% of the snaps, so it wasn't an injury. Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore just has his number.
Maybe Antonio Brown's on a crutch because he's got his frozen feet again.
Maybe you never know. I honestly never know with AB at all. I wouldn't doubt a single thing. I have Jared Judy at 34. He is coming back off IR this week. That's good news for Denver. I have Odell Beckham Jr. at 51. I don't think he's that great at football.
Doesn't seem to be.
No.
Just to touch on Jerry Judy here, I think Henry wrote the article on buy low players right now. Yep. And he had Jerry Judy there. I think I disagree with him. I don't think Jerry Judy's that great with Teddy Bridgewater because Judy's meant to take the top off the defense, and Bridgewater is never going to try to take the top off the defense. If Drew Lock comes back, then yeah, for sure, Jerry Judy. But I don't think he's that big of a guy. He has to be in this offense. He has to be the top guy. But I think I'd rather have guys like Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton over Jerry Judy this week.
I definitely have Sutton. I have Sutton at
right
24, but I mean, we got to see what Jerry Judy looks like. I've been in the camp where I think he's one of the more overhyped wide receivers in the league.
Yeah.
He runs great routes. He has good feet, but I think that's about it. And he did all of that at Alabama against nobodies. So we'll see. Let's see. I am at 34. I think he's fine. I think he sees enough targets. I mean, week 1 he saw 7 targets. That was against the Giants. Washington isn't a ton better, but we will see. I have Malik Taylor at 72, holding on strong there. Hopefully I'm right. I have Randall Cobb at 54. I have Marquez Valdez-Scantling at 59.
The thing is,
we'll see.
We're talking a lot of Packers when we got a Packers show after this. But the thing with Marquez Valdez-Scantling when he comes back, I think you almost want to start Marquez Valdez-Scantling because he has shown that, he can play in this offense. He's a deep threat. Especially if Aaron Jones gets going, you got to think Marquez Valdez-Scantling is going to at least catch one long one.
Yeah, I agree with that. People will be nervous. I don't think you should be. I think he's going to be activated. I think he's fine.
Yeah, and he's traveling.
I also think people.
Today.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, then it should be a lock. Juwan Winfrey is going to be activated. This might be bold. I think out of the receivers healthy, I think he's the most talented out of all the wide receivers that will be healthy. He is a stud. So don't be surprised if he goes off in DFS. So comparing to the rest of the consensus, I have Chase Claypool at 22. That's 4 higher. Julio Jones at 28, 4 higher. I think the Titans have to throw against the Colts. Obviously, that's why I had Derrick Henry slightly lower. So Julio and A.J. Brown, I think, are both in play.
Yep.
I mean, they always are, but I think they have good games. Here's 2 slot guys. I just don't know why people are overlooking them. So I have Jameson Crowder at 48 and Quez Watkins with the Eagles at 49. I'm 17 spots higher on Jameson Crowder, 14 spots higher on Quez. Looking at how Crowder has finished, past 3 weeks, he's been 16, 55, and 44. Again, I am at 48, and that's way higher. Quez has been completely overlooked by everybody. He has finished 56, 42, and 50 the past 3 weeks. Again, tough defenses, and Hurts sucks. I mean, Hurts isn't a very good quarterback, but he plays Detroit this week. Obviously, we're talking about wide receivers ranked pretty low, but do you agree or disagree with my rankings there?
I totally agree with Quez Watkins. I might even move him up a little bit because he is a part of this offense. Just like you said, Jalen Hurts can do whatever. But against Tampa Bay, Jalen Hurts was looking deep to Quez Watkins a couple times, and he made some nice catches along the sideline. Like he is involved in this offense, and he is probably the number 3 option on this offense right now, depending on Dallas Goddard's status with his injury, COVID, whatever. Devante Smith is there. That doesn't scare me with Quez Watkins. Jalen Hurts looks to him, especially when he's rolling out to the right in the pocket and looking to sling it downfield. Did it a couple times against Tampa Bay. So that excites me a lot, especially against a much worse defense with Detroit. And Jameson Crowder, same thing. He's a part of this offense. He has to be, because you can't just force feed the ball to Corey Davis. I don't think Corey Davis is good enough for that. He sees too much good coverage for that. Jameson Crowder's that underneath guy. He's that middle of the field guy. He's going to be the guy to bail Mike White out in situations that are inevitably going to be bad for him.
And you see inexperienced quarterbacks come in and they usually throw to tight ends because they're easy short routes and a big body. Jets don't really have a tight end, so those short routes underneath, Jameson Crowder is a great route runner, so he's probably going to be open. He just seems like the perfect security blanket there. Only other guy is Jamal Agnew. I really like him with Jacksonville for whatever reason. I think he is, especially now after this bye week, I think they're going to kind of incorporate him into that role that they were hoping Travis Etienne to be in. I'm guessing I'm higher. Let's look. I'm 16 spots higher on him as well. So, and again, I only have him at 60, so it's not like I'm saying he's great. But the past 2 weeks, he's been wide receiver 41 and wide receiver 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's great, dude. He's really good.
He's a guy, too, that you don't want to start him because of this, but he's always got the chance to take a kick or a punt return for a touchdown, too.
Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, he's worth a look in deeper leagues because I'm sure he's out there. So
Yeah,
definitely check him out.
especially like 16-team leagues, 20-team leagues. I don't. If you're in that and you got a guy on a bye, Marquise Brown or whatever, I don't think you should be completely like in your sorrows or anything for putting him in a flex.
I agree. Players I'm lower on, I have Calvin Ridley at 21. That's 4 lower. Cole Beasley, 45. That's 6 lower. Randall Cobb at 54. That's 6 lower. Tim Patrick at 56. It's 5 lower. Rondale Moore, I have at 68, and that's 15 spots lower. This has been every single week. People love to rank Rondale Moore super high. His past 4, I'll just read off every single week. He's been wide receiver 53, 5, 105, 68, 26, 69, 67. Stop ranking him high. He's
Rondale,
at best the 4th weapon.
yeah, and Rondale Moore I think he's the type of player that helps Arizona win games, but doesn't help him get stats, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's good. I think he's really good. But H.A. Green's the wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
Hopkins is obviously the 1. Christian Kirk's clearly the 3. And then you have 2 good running backs. You now have Zach Ertz, and then there's Rondale Moore. So,
and then you have Kyler Murray who can run the ball whenever he wants to.
Yeah, he is so far down the totem pole. It doesn't make sense to rank him as someone you would start in the flex.
Yeah. Is he a guy? So I have him in the league, and it's never a spot to start him. But would he be a guy that you drop for one of these? I don't know, one of these pickup candidates like I don't know. You find Sterling Shepard on waivers or Jameson Crowder or someone like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially Sterling Shepard, because he's good when he's healthy. He's just never healthy, I guess. Yeah. Like Jameson Crowder, he's solid. He's also in a crowded offense that is not that great, but I just don't see the upside with Rondale Moore. Even if he has a big week, he's not going to do it 2 weeks in a row. Any wide receiver you want to talk about?
I've said it once before. I'll say it again. I like Van Jefferson a lot. I think he's a great receiver. I think he's a big part of this offense. The only problem is he's kind of that Tyree Kill guy when Tyree Kill was a rookie. He's only going to get 1 catch, and will he bring it to the house? Maybe. Thinking Deshaun Jackson-ish. But I just want to know your thoughts on T.Y. Hilton going forward because he's back from injury. He's not leading the league in receiving anymore, but it feels like he should be a part of this offense. I still don't fully trust Michael Pittman.
I definitely don't trust Michael Pittman. I think T.Y. Hilton's the wide receiver 1, and I know defenses will treat him as such as well, which is good news and bad news, obviously.
Yeah.
Definitely good news for Michael Pittman with Hilton back. But he had 4 catches for 80 yards in a partial game that he returned. He's really good. I would start him pretty much every game he plays inside and pick him up because his next 3 weeks, he plays the Titans this week, then the Jets and Jaguars also at home. Start him all 3 of those weeks. He'll probably be hurt by then. But then he has Buffalo away. I wouldn't start him. Tampa Bay at home. I would start him there.
Yep.
He goes to Houston. You have to start him there. And then get rid of him for the fantasy playoffs because they don't want him in those games. But he's a great player.
Yeah, just based off schedule alone, he's a guy that can give you those extra 10 points that you might need to pick up a couple more wins to get to the playoffs.
Yeah. Completely agree. Let's finish up here with tight ends. I have Travis Kelce, number 1 versus the Giants. Kyle Pitts at 2 versus the Panthers. I have Dallas Goddard at 3 at the Lions. Hawkinson at 4 versus the Eagles, and Gesicki at 5 at Buffalo. Any thoughts on those 5?
Dallas Goddard I just talked about. I think, there hasn't been a while, in my mind, where someone's value has increased so much with someone else getting traded. Because Dallas Goddard is very good. I think he's a very good tight end. And he had a major role even with Zach Ertz there. And him being that number 1 tight end, he might be the number 1 option, in general in this whole Philadelphia offense. With the not great receivers or not, exciting receivers, Dallas Goedert's going to be the guy, especially as Jalen Hurts continues to develop. It's no easier way to get completions than throwing to a 2-yard check down to your tight end.
Completely agree. His season high for targets is only 5, and he's done it multiple times. But to your point, he's a guy that could push for 10 targets any given week, I think.
I think, too, with that 5 targets, that may sound low, but as a tight end, I don't think that's that low. I think you're excited if your tight end seeing 5 targets.
Yeah, unless it's Travis Kelce. I mean, even looking at, Waller's on bye, so I can't look at him. Hawkinson, he had a good week last week. I guess Hawkinson has a little bit more than that. But to your point, yeah, 5 targets for a tight end, pretty valuable usually. We had a question in the chat. Uzama or Mo Alley Cox. I have Uzama at 14, Mo Alley Cox at 18. People are hyping up Uzama a little bit too much because of those touchdowns. Past 4 weeks, he has 5 touchdowns. It's not sustainable. I think he's this year's Robert Tonyan, to be completely honest. I think he's touchdown dependent, so I'm not as high on him, but I have him above Mo Alley Cox.
His touchdowns, too, are coming on long passes, which is never sustainable for a tight end. I like Mo Alley Cox. He actually won me a game last week with that fourth quarter catch. I won by like 0.5 points. But Carson Wentz is going to him. You're going to need a big receiver for Carson Wentz because who knows where that ball is coming out and where that ball is going to finish. And look we had this conversation every single week last year about what Indianapolis tight end should I start this week or whatever. Mo Alley Cox is obviously it's not last year, but Trey Burton isn't there. I forget the other guy who was there last year. Mo Alley Cox has taken over that role. And in order to get that run game going, tight ends are needed to be at a premium.
Completely agree. And Jack Doyle's the other guy you're thinking of. He's still there, but they haven't used him at all in the receiving game.
Yeah.
Strange. I have Robert Tonyan at 12, and I could see myself bringing him higher. What's your thoughts on that?
This is the week that, Robert Tonyan, he had 3 last year against Atlanta with Devante out. This is a week, I don't see him having 3 or anything, but this is a week where he has that game and everyone's like, this is why I hung on to Robert Tonyan. It's like, no, you didn't hang on to him for this week. You hung on to him because you're either a Packer fan or there's no other tight ends out there and you know what he did last year. So once Devante Adams comes back, Robert Tonyan is very droppable. I think you try to pick up a flyer and drop Rob Tonyan. But this is a good week for him. Like I said before, 6 touchdowns last year went to tight ends and running backs with Devante out, and I don't see why that changes this year. Short week, you gotta imagine that LaFleur hasn't made a huge master plan due to not having as many practices. So why not go to the guy who has experience in this offense?
Not only not much time, they had to be virtual because of COVID too.
Yeah, true.
So, it's been tough. Juan, I need more clarification on your question because it's D Johnson over M Sanders. Miles Sanders probably isn't going to play. Is it? I'm going to guess D Ernest Johnson. And if that's the case, he's probably going to be the RB2 for the Browns as well. So there could be somebody better. Oh, rest of season. Miles Sanders for me. If it's D'Ernest Johnson, if it's Deontay, I like Deontay more.
I'm in the same boat as you because Kareem Hunt is not out for the year.
Correct, which is very surprising from how the injury first looked.
Yeah.
Trevor hasn't been watching the entire time because we talked about this, but he joins the chat here. New England takes away opponent's best option. Should I be worried if I have Eckler and Keenan, or are they matchup proof? We think the best option that they're probably going to take away is Mike Williams, especially with J.C. Jackson out. They're going to try to make sure they don't get beat deep. So I think Eckler and Keenan Allen will probably actually still be fine. And they're not matchup proof. They're not good enough for that, but I think they're fine. Eckler is almost matchup proof.
Yeah, especially with New England. If they end up taking away either one Keenan Allen or Austin Eckler, the other one's going to benefit from it because it's very tough to take away probably a top 10 running back in the league and a top 10 receiver in the league at the same time.
Yeah, especially with offense like this, it's definitely pick your poison. And thinking of their I still feel like they need more weapons, but their three good weapons are Eckler, Allen, and Mike Williams, and each one of those guys attacks a different level of the defense.
Yep.
And with the cornerback getting out for New England, J.C. Jackson, they need to make sure they don't get beat deep. They need to keep people in front of them and hope that Herbert makes a mistake. So
what I like to about this offense is, just like you said, they attack all three of those levels. And then they have Jared Cook to clean up the rest, who has been doing very well at that this year.
Yeah. I still wish they had one more guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've been thinking that for a while. Back to these tight ends. I have Dan Arnold at 15. I'll compare to the consensus, actually. Probably higher on him. Yeah, so I have Dan Arnold at 15. That's 4 spots higher. I have Gino Smith at 20. That's 3 higher. O.J. Howard. I'm ranking assuming Gronkowski is out, but it sounds like Gronkowski is going to be in, so just watch for an update there. And then Pat Freiermuth for the Steelers. I have him at 23. That's 4 higher. I think he's going to see a larger role going forward. I think he's going to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of Juju Smith-Schuster being out. And we saw that somewhat against Seattle. I think it's a little bit of a product of the matchup. But he saw 7 targets. He had 7 catches, 58 yards. I think they used the bye week to get him more involved. I think that's what's going to be going forward. So if you are, I don't know, just someone who has Robert Tonyan and has been trying him out there every week and seeing him do nothing, I would still play Tonyan this week, but I would look at Freiermuth to possibly pick up going forward.
Yeah, I think so too. Juju Smith-Schuster, whether you like him or not, he commands a lot of eyeballs on defense because I still think he's a good player. Great out of the slot, great for the middle of the field. Freiermuth is that young guy who can fill that spot. Who knows how Big Ben's going to come back, but Big Ben likes tight ends. You know, he gave Heath Miller a career here, and Heath Miller, in my eyes, has always been not a great tight end. And I think Pat Freiermuth, not going to get a lot of Big Ben, but I think he could get a little bit of the end of Big Ben's career here.
We saw how the Steelers are very comfortable using tight ends in the red zone last year with Ebron seeing basically every target, and Freiermuth is. I think he's a stud. I think he has potential to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He does everything. He's very good. So it would make their offense much better if he's an every down guy.
Yep.
Any tight ends I'm lower on? Just Uzama. I have Uzama at 14. Like I said earlier, that's 3 spots lower. He's not a top 12 guy for me.
I like Ricky Seals-Jones. He's filling that spot of Logan Thomas. He's getting 100% of the snaps. And like we said before, Taylor Heinecke's unpredictable. It seems like the only predictable thing is he's going to get Ricky Seals-Jones at least 5 targets a game. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, 9, 6, 7 the past 3 weeks for targets. Washington, this is the first game they're probably not going to be trailing by a ton, I guess. But yeah, to your point, he has to get targets. And if they're going to throw to anybody in the red zone, it's probably him.
Yeah.
Any other tight end you want to talk about?
I mean, I don't really have one off the top of my head. I think you got to roll with Hunter Henry if you have him. He scored 3-4 weeks in a row now. Seems to be Mac Jones' guy. So I think you're very happy if you're the guy who picked up Hunter Henry.
And it's a revenge game, so he's clearly going to go off. That actually, so we got to do a guarantee. And I didn't come in planned. You said you didn't come in planned. Do you have an idea yet, or should we just figure it out right now?
Well, we got Trevor's here. He put it in the chat. Trevor's guaranteeing 2+ touchdowns combined from Randall Cobb, Keenan Allen, and Calvin Ridley.
Ooh. Okay.
And I didn't follow your. You had your touchdown parlay last week. How did that turn out?
Those 5 guys got, I think, 5 touchdowns, 5 or 6. I had Mike Davis in it, or Davis, that's his name. Yeah. So he didn't get a touchdown, but it was still good. He didn't get much of fucking anything, actually. Okay. Who do I want to do 1 for? I kind of want to do Hunter Henry, but should I go bold with Derrick Henry?
The easy one for me is I'm not going to take this, but the easy one is Aaron Jones. Getting 150 yards of offense because, like I said, this has to be Aaron Jones' game. So we'll throw that. Trevor, I'm sure Trevor's writing it down like he usually does. Trevor, throw that on a half a one for me because I don't want that to be my number one.
Okay. A half a one.
Yeah.
I will do. I guess that defense hasn't been as good either. I was going to say a bad game for Alvin Kamara, but
Okay,
that
I got
doesn't
mine.
make sense. Okay, let's hear it.
The Giants have absolutely effed me in my picks this year. So I can't beat them. I'm going to join them. I'll go Daniel Jones, 300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That's a good one. I like that a lot. Okay, I will go. I'm just cycling through positions here. Just find a player I like. I mean, I guess if no one else is on him, I'll do it. Something with Quez Watkins. Like I said earlier, I'm 17 spots higher than him. I'm at wide receiver 49. 49. Is saying he's a top 50 guy bold? That doesn't seem bold enough. I'll say, I don't know, like nothing seems bold. It just seems like he's going to keep doing the exact same thing, but no one else thinks that.
I think the bold thing for Quez Watkins would be saying he's going to score a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think that though.
Yeah, right.
I'll go T.Y. Hilton gets 4+ catches, 50+ yards.
Fair.
Hopefully he doesn't snap a leg or something as soon as he walks on the field.
As we yeah, go ahead. I was going to bring him up.
Okay, so his team: Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, Michael Carter, Keenan Allen, Robert Woods, Uzama, Dawson Knox, I assume, not the Knicks player. Mm-hmm. Is he still in the Knicks?
Who knows? He had like 4 good games, and the media told me he was going to be the next Carmelo Anthony, and that never turned out to anything.
Did not. Chargers, Ravens, Prater, Gaskin, Waddle, Singletary, Mooney. Should I look to trade? Okay. So he's 4-3. Should he look to trade? So who would be the best guys?
As in my eyes, I'm always looking to trade, no matter what my record is, because trading is fun. In your case, he's looking what players he should trade. You could probably use an upgraded receiver. You might be able to get a name if you package Joe Mixon, and I don't know. I know Joe Mixon's tough to get rid of, but package him and Jalen Waddle together. I mean, Jalen Waddle's been playing well.
Yeah, Waddle's the guy I had my eye on too, because he's the clear sell high guy. Yep. Him and Uzama. Dawson Knox is out hurt this week, so it kind of sucks to move Uzama if you don't have a tight end replacement. But if you can find a tight end needy person and package the two together to upgrade that wide receiver spot, I think that would be a decent spot to do it. Yeah.
This also brings up a good point that I was in the chat last night that a guy was panicking because he was 4-3. We're not even halfway through the NFL season yet. There's no reason to panic no matter what your record is. And you got to think you have an extra week yet too. So if you want to trade, I disagree with that because I think this guy's got a decent team. But if you have someone on your mind that you really want that's you for sure is going to help you, go ahead. But just because you're 4-3, I don't think you should look to trade just to make a trade and hope that it gets better because there's a lot of season left.
I agree. And I think with your players, you're in a pretty good spot to win this week. It depends on who you're playing, I guess. But we both think it's going to be a big Aaron Jones game. So if you could sell high on Aaron Jones after this, I think he's going to continue to be solid. But I think A.J. Dillon's going to be mixing in more. I think he could be a sell high guy after this week.
Yeah. I also think that you need a new quarterback this week with Lamar Jackson being on bye because Sam Darnold's just not going to do it for you. We talked about his confidence being shot. I'm sure someone like Trevor Lawrence or Taylor Heinecke or someone's out there that's got to be better than Sam Darnold right now.
You would think. Logically, it should be a good game for Sam Darnold. We just saw what Tua did against Atlanta. I just don't trust him. I just don't think he's good.
I'd rather have Kirk Cousins this week.
Oh yeah. Much if Kirk Cousins is out there, he needs to be owned for sure. Pickett, Bridgewater, Smith, Winston, Daniel Jones. I mean,
there's a Mac Jones. If
sure.
it's Daniel Jones, yes. If it's Mac Jones, no. I would stick with Darnold.
Yeah, I would stick with Darnold. Hope he gets good protection so he can step into his throws a little bit.
The thing is, Teddy Bridgewater should have a good week because he plays Washington, but Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have good weeks because he doesn't take chances, doesn't pass the ball more than 3 yards downfield, resorting back to what Drew Brees taught him.
And what Pat Shurmur wants him to do. I mean, Pat Shurmur blows, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he got Eli Manning and Sam Darnold to complete over 70% of their passes, but they also didn't win games. And that's what is happening in Denver. They're terrible.
So, Zuda, I'm sorry. I know I just told you that you shouldn't start Sam Darnold, but with those, you should start Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Stay tuned. I'm sure we're going to be live, and we kind of ran a little bit over here. We're going to be live for Lombardi sweep and within minutes.
Yeah, a few minutes. We'll be talking about the Packers, last week's game, tomorrow's game. If you want some insight on the Packers receiving core, I know it's kind of a hot topic. We will be talking about that in a few minutes. So definitely return, subscribe if you're here on YouTube. And thank you, Zuda, for the sub.
Tell your friends.
I got that in before I even said it. Yeah, definitely tell your friends. Hit the notification bell so you definitely we are underrated. I think I'm rated exactly where I'm supposed to be, but we'll see. Okay, we'll be back.